When it comes to manifesting your purpose, manifesting the things that you desire, there are three things that you must consider: mind, body, and spirit. Then, as you go deeper into understanding how to use those three pivotal tools, you understand that within the mind, there are other layers, other aspects, other elements that you have to really go deep into and study in order for you to master your mind. Now, one of those key, most important tools that you must understand and master is your subconscious mind. Now, as we go deep into learning how to program and tap into your own inner power, we're going to really focus in on the subconscious mind. So let's get into what the subconscious mind is. Well, there are multiple layers of the mind. There is the conscious mind. There is the subconscious mind. There is the unconscious mind. There is also the superconscious mind. Now, if we start from the lowest level of the mind, or lowest frequency of the mind, you really start from the unconscious, right? The unconscious is really the part of you that gets into the primal, the very basic of your nature as a human being living in this human experience. Now, when you get into recognizing, okay, there are elements that is required, say for survival, then you also understand that within the unconscious is the ego. The ego is housed in this unconscious mind that you have. And the ego is a extension or part of the extreme other side of the spectrum of consciousness. Consciousness is who you absolutely 100%, the core of who you are. That is your consciousness. That is the part of you that connects with the divine essence, right? With God. You are the divine and individual spark of that essence. All right. This is your consciousness. This is that oneness with God that we talk about, that we really want to connect deep with. Now, in actuality, there is nothing that isn't God, right? Because God created all things. But as we talk about creating this connection, this deeper connection with God and the God within us, we have to look at consciousness and your consciousness in particular. But we have to also recognize the elements of who you are and how to master those elements, those tools, in order for you to properly align yourself with your purpose, the things that you desire, and essentially being the creator of your reality. So we go from recognize your consciousness, the purest aspect of who you are, and then the other spectrum of that, which is the ego, right? Now, the ego is required as you are living this physical experience. The ego is housed in the unconscious mind. Again, that is the part of you that is focused on the primal instincts, survival, recognizing and identifying harm, things of that nature, right? And the ego is more of a personality that is developed, and it is housed again in the unconscious mind. Now, then you go into the subconscious mind, right? Which is another level. And subconscious mind is really the place that houses all of your habits, right? Behaviors, your thoughts. And this is what we're going to focus on today. Then above that, you have your conscious mind. And the conscious mind is the part of your mind that you are always actively using and involved with. The conscious mind essentially is your analytical mind. That is the mind that is constantly looking, observing, analyzing, figuring out, judging, coming to a conclusion, right? Looking for patterns, things of that nature. And depending on how you've trained your conscious mind, you're going to either look for danger, you're going to look for negativity, or you're going to look for positivity. You're going to look for opportunity, right? Things that you can do and use in alignment with your purpose and your desire. Okay. So essentially it goes like this: conscious mind, as far as function and practicality and what you use and have access to, it goes conscious mind. That's the thing that's most superficial, that you can obviously understand, you could feel, you can use, right? And then going deeper, subconscious mind, right? Which is all your habits, also the subconscious mind is responsible for your bodily functions, your heartbeat, you breathing, right? The cells moving through your body, right? All of your bodily functions, your nervous system, things of that nature. And then you go deeper into your unconscious mind. Now, your unconscious mind also stores, say, trauma, repressed memories, things of that nature. Okay. Again, the ego is housed essentially in the unconscious mind, but the ego can also influence all other aspects of your mind, okay, except for consciousness. You see, that is the core, that is your divine spark. But the ego is the other aspect of that divine spark. You can look at almost like the ego as the opposite of the light, right? You are divine light, radiance, right? And the ego is then created to create the contrast of all of it that is, okay? Everything has its quote unquote opposite, polar opposite, right? I don't say opposite, I usually say contrast. I usually say the other side of the spectrum because essentially the two things are connected, right? They are essentially one, just different perspectives or side of that oneness, right? That essence. So when you think about consciousness, the ego must exist. And that's why the ego was created, especially in this physical realm, where things like the opposites and contrast absolutely really show up, right? It must be, it must exist, it must have. You must have the two in order to experience the oneness. And so you think about consciousness, you must have an ego. That ego is housed in the unconscious, right? You have the subconscious, which essentially houses all your experiences. It remembers and stores all of your feelings, your thoughts, right? Your patterns, your habits. And then you have your conscious mind, which is analyzing everything. So now let's get into the power of the subconscious mind, right? Because this is one of those things, and you have to understand throughout the course of this workshop, you're going to see and understand why the subconscious mind is so important and why we're not focused in more on the conscious mind. Though the conscious mind is very important too, because the conscious mind is what essentially influences the subconscious mind. That's what we're going to get into later on. But ultimately, the power of the subconscious mind is that it essentially governs your daily life, okay? It governs everything from your breathing, right? Your autonomic responses, your nervous system, your immune system, your habits. So when you are living your life, you're essentially living your life mostly from the subconscious. This is why you need to understand how important it is to recognize the power of the subconscious, because it is essentially, if you can really think about and look at like what is who you are, like what defines who you are is what most people would say is your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. And so if the subconscious mind essentially governs your thoughts, right? It governs your body, right? It governs your habits. Essentially, the subconscious mind is who you are. Really, it's not who you are, it's really but how you show up. Okay? How you show up in reality, how you show up in this physical reality, how you show up in this world, how you show up for yourself and how you show up for everybody else or according to everybody else, how you even show up in the universe. So you're now starting to get the significance of how powerful the subconscious mind is. Okay. So as you connect and understand the power of the subconscious mind, then you begin to understand that its role is pivotal in intuition, right? Creativity and emotions. Now, emotions are very important because emotions are energy in motion. Emotions is the driving force that actually propels you, that pushes you, or even pulls you to do certain things. Without the emotions, you're not likely to do things. And so emotions are very important. Now, when you are in a space where you, though, identify with negative emotions, what you're likely to do is unproductive actions, right? Very actions that are going to actually cause you to procrastinate, cause you to be distracted, to do the things or not do things, right? Which is still doing a thing. If you decide, you want to simply just lay on the couch and watch Netflix when your purpose and your desire is to get more healthy, be more fit, and you decide to not do that and you're sitting on the couch, then you're doing something, right? It's just not in alignment with what it is that you desire to be. So you have to ultimately recognize that the subconscious mind is essentially the part of you that has established a routine, has established a reflex, right? Established a habit, a pattern. When we look at the universe is grounded in patterns, right? This is how we grow to understand things, is by recognizing, okay, this is a pattern, or seeing that, oh, this is a sign, this is a symbol, this is a signal, right? And that is because we've used our conscious mind to analyze and collect the data. And then based on that information and the emotional trigger, right? The emotion experienced at the time, that then is stored in your subconscious as a habit, as a reflex, as a trigger or a reaction, right? Something that just instantly happens. And so as you go down this understanding, you start to see also that when we tap into what it means to tap into the subconscious or to understand the subconscious, you realize that the subconscious is nonlinear, right? Meaning that you can tap into the subconscious multiple ways and directions, right? A lot of times, we identify with simply just using our conscious mind to tap into the subconscious. And that is the best way to actually take ownership of programming your subconscious. That is something we'll get into later. But right now, let's continue to break down subconscious and the relationship with all other aspects of who you are and your minds. So, though going from the consciousness, your conscious mind to your subconscious mind is a very lunar way of approaching it, right? Many times, though, with the ego, with the unconscious mind involved, even the superconscious mind, which is the part of your mind that is closer to your pure consciousness or the divinity, right? Or grand consciousness, which I like to call God. Those things can absolutely influence the subconscious mind. Those things can absolutely begin to structure how you show up and react, right? How you actually exchange or interact with the universe around you. Your job, though, is simply identifying it. Now, you may not be able to make sense of it, right? Because certain times when we're on the spiritual journey, we tap into spiritual gifts that really don't make sense when it comes to articulating it in language, explaining it. It's just simply a matter of recognizing, okay, this is just who I am, and this is how I connect with my divinity, and this is how I communicate with the universe. You see, so as you continue on this journey, you'll start to learn how the different layers of your mind and even the gifts that you have begin to break down your essential relationship with all that is. Okay. And understand that this is going to be unique for you. And you cannot necessarily compare your experience with another. And so when we break down the subconscious mind, we're going to try to break it down as generally as possible. But ultimately, it's important to recognize that the process of tapping into the subconscious is not one that is simply like, cookie cutter. This is the way it's done with everybody. But for the purposes of teaching and supporting you and understanding it, I'm going to give you examples that generally anybody can apply along the process of going over this subconscious mind. So recognize also, this is very important. The subconscious mind lacks, right, the ability to do critical thinking. That's not what the subconscious mind does. Your conscious mind does the critical thinking, right? Your subconscious mind receives it, okay? It receives it and it takes in anything and everything that is fed to it. So you have to understand the importance of making sure the right things are fed to it. Now, with the subconscious mind, essentially everything that you experience, everything that you do, everything that happens, right, in your reality is received in your subconscious mind. We can actually tap into these memories. It's like an infinite database. The issue is we often don't find value in being able to do that, and we often don't practice really tapping into our mind enough to be able to do that. But some people are great at remembering things, right? Remembering really great details since they were a little child, right? And some people are just not good at it. They're not naturally gifted at it, but we can all cultivate that talent. But essentially, the point of this is to say that everything that happens to you is stored in your subconscious. This is why you have to be extremely mindful about your surroundings, about your environment, about the things that you watch, the people you hang out with and talk with, the people you have intimate relationships with, because all of those exchanges and things that are happening are being received and absorbed in your subconscious. Okay. And then, depending on the emotional intensity of particular things, it will be stored in your subconscious, not just simply as a memory, but as a trigger, but as a program, meaning that you will respond to certain things based on that singular experience that was highly charged with emotional energy and intensity. You see, so you have to be cautious, right? But not fearful about the experiences of life, because what also matters is how you perceive the experience that you had. You see, when we were children, we didn't have the emotional intelligence and also the mental ability and maturity to change and view things from the perspective or the lens of opportunity, of abundance, of recognizing that this is a lesson, attaching or learning from the experience. All we had as children was, this is scary, right? This is hurtful. This person is mean, right? This is dangerous, right? I am scared. And so, what happened, because you were highly emotionally charged in that moment as a child and you weren't able to really identify the difference between, say, fear versus danger, you simply experience that fear and store that into your subconscious mind as danger. So now every time you see a small spider, because you was a child, you thought that was dangerous, right? But as an adult, you recognize, okay, that particular kind of spider is not dangerous. As long as I don't get near the spider, it's not dangerous. So therefore, I don't have to be fearful or scared. But it has been stored in your subconscious already. So you have to really address that fear. Is it valid? Is it true? Is it real? You see, and you can go down the list of all the things that show up for you where it's just not logical or rational to have these reactions to these things, because as an adult, you understand, oh, this isn't something that is really practical. It doesn't serve me. And it's not even based on reality. You see, so your job is to now, right? Yes, reprogram those old programs that don't serve you. But more importantly, recognize that every situation that you put yourself in is going to be received by the subconscious. So you have to be mindful about what you let, what you expose to your subconscious. Basically, what environment you put yourself in, what people you talk to, what books you read, what movies you watch, what TV shows you watch, what music you listen to. Okay. All of those things cultivates your actions. Remember, the subconscious is really about how you show up in this reality, how you show up for yourself, how you show up for the universe. And if you are not being mindful about what the subconscious is receiving, then you're going to be out of control when it comes to managing how you show up. All right. So it's all about recognizing your power to simply be mindful about where you place yourself, what you consume, what you do, who you speak to. Okay. And then understanding that the more you put yourself in particular situations with highly emotional charge, then that is going to be more likely and strongly programmed into your subconscious. Okay. So, yeah, maybe if you do something once, yes, it'll be stored in your subconscious, but it won't become a program. It won't become a habit. But the more you do something, the more it is likely to be a habit. So that's like when they say, in order to make something a habit, you got to do it for 30 days, 90 days, whatever. The point of that is, okay, now we figured out a system of the more I do this thing, then the more it's likely to become a way of life for me. So doing something for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, even a whole entire year, especially a year. I know for myself, if I do something for a year, it is almost just as difficult to stop doing it than it is to have started doing it. You see, because it is just a part of your mental DNA structure, habit, pattern, how you show up. And so this is how powerful the subconscious is. Your subconscious mind essentially is the mechanism, right? The autopilot for your life. And all you have to do is program that computer. Your mind is a computer. It is a problem-solving solution. Now, I don't want you to just focus on problem, but it's a solution-based machine, right? It is based on your desire, what it is that you desire and want. If you are smart and wise, knowledgeable about directing your mind toward that thing, it will not only create ways of getting it, but it will actually continue and be committed and focused on doing what it takes to actually get that thing. You just simply have to understand how to direct it. And that is what the subconscious mind is about. So as we go deeper into understanding the subconscious mind, what I really want you to do is focus on thinking about how you've already programmed your subconscious. What's in it? Are these things serving you or are they not? This is not about judging yourself or shaming yourself or feeling guilt. This is simply about just acknowledging, okay, this doesn't serve me, this does. How can I reprogram this thing that no longer serves me? Okay. And then all you have to do is think about how you can reprogram that program, right? How can you reframe it? How can you use it to your benefit even? Okay. Then that begins to break down its power over you to procrastinate, to self-sabotage, to have negative self-talk, what have you. Your job is now to recognize, okay, this pattern, okay, was stored in my subconscious mind when I wasn't able and I didn't have the skills to actually reframe it and think about it in a way to empower me. So now I have to do that now. That's the responsibility you have for yourself now. As adults, we have to go back into our childhood, heal that inner child, communicate with that inner child and say, okay, now is the time. These are the skills. These are the things that we want to focus on. These are the things that are going to empower us. And thus we have to completely be repetitive about that thing, about those thoughts, about those emotions to help us to move forward in creating the thing that you desire. You see, so recognize your power. You still have power, even if you feel like there's a lot of programs in your mind and your subconscious that don't serve you. Trust me, it's not a big deal. It just simply takes effort, but more importantly, it takes consistency. And just like I said before, with the consistency of doing it over and over and over again and then attaching emotions, strong emotions to it, especially positive emotions, then you will eventually program your mind into a machine, into a computer that is completely focused on your desire and your purpose and your personal fulfillment and the self-realization that you are absolutely the creator of your universe. Have you ever put your hand on something hot without knowing it and instantly had a reaction from it, instantly had a reflex, which basically protected you from causing more harm and damage to yourself. We're going to get deeper into the subconscious mind and how it works. And essentially, we will lead to how to use it in order to support you into living your true purpose, creating everything that you desire, and essentially creating your own universe and reality. Now, when it comes to the subconscious mind, we've established that the subconscious mind is responsible for pretty much everything that you receive, everything that you experience, and it stores it into your mind as memory. But it goes deeper than that because not only does it store it as memory, it's stored as habits, depending on what happened and how much emotion was triggered or how much emotion was involved and intensified into that particular event or experience. Now, when we are children, many times we are fed information, knowledge, experiences based on our parents, our guardians, right? The guides of this physical realm. And as you grow up, you learn that the things that you were taught, the things that you recognize as patterns, beliefs, even habits, don't serve you anymore. But you're trying to figure out how is it then can you change those patterns, change those belief systems in a way that allows you to live in alignment with what it is that you wish to live, experience, have. And so as we go deeper into the subconscious mind, it's important to understand now that we know what the subconscious mind is, let's get into how exactly it works. Now, when I use the example of having your hand on something hot, right? And your body instantly recognizing heat, instantly recognizing something is hot before you visually saw it or seen it or experienced it or knew what it was, your body reacted from it. The same thing applies with, being outside in nature, feeling a bug bite and instantly retracting your foot or your hand or your body and recognizing I was bit and you instantly moved from that experience, from that sensation. Well, we usually recognize that as a neurological reflex. But remember that the subconscious mind is actually responsible for your nervous system. It's responsible for all of your bodily functions. And when you recognize that, you begin to understand that, okay, there is a mechanism here, right? There is a system at play when it comes to the subconscious mind. And that system is really grounded on survival. It's really grounded on protection. Okay. And so when you think in terms of that, you begin to truly understand why you are storing particular things or you have stored particular things in your mind as habits, right? Because essentially you recognize a need, right? Or desire or an intensity of emotions that has caused you to tap into this flight or fight kind of trigger system. And whether the thing was actually dangerous or not, that's truly irrelevant. It is if you perceived it to be dangerous or not. And if you perceive something to be dangerous, especially as a child, when you can't rationalize it, you instantly store that as a reflex. You store that as a trigger. You store it as a habit, even if you do something repetitively. So now, with recognizing, okay, the subconscious mind is about survival, it is about protection, then you understand, okay, so I have to tap into understanding this on a deeper level in order for you to really see how you can reprogram those conditions, right? Or use your knowledge to direct the subconscious mind in a way that aligns with you and what you truly desire. And when I say you, I mean the true you see. So now your job is to recognize the sources of how the subconscious mind is programmed: society, family, and mainly experiences. And so when you think about experiences, you must again think about self-awareness and think about where you were, your state of mind, your maturity level, even your spiritual understanding, where you were when you experienced that particular event or experience. Okay. Because that is going to tell you a lot, or that's going to be a big influential aspect of how you store that information, right? How you, what you believed at the moment, what you understood as a truth for you at that moment, though it doesn't resonate with you now, still had insight, it had impact, and it was a part of the programming. It was a part of the reflex. It was a part of the trigger. Okay. And so when you look back on it, and though you may still feel the trigger, recognizing that it doesn't serve you, then you have the ability to just simply look at yourself and say, wait a minute, though I was at a different place in my life, for some reason, I still respond according to that previous state of mind that I had beforehand. And when you understand that, then you see, okay, there is something here about the programming. The program was set in place, installed at a particular time when you were a particular person. And though it doesn't align with who you are now, it still has an impact. It still influences you. And so now you have to take ownership of that. So when we think about this survival mechanism, think about it this way neurologically. When you are in danger, your body has created a system where you don't have to rationally, right, from your conscious mind, think about the situation. It just automatically happens. So if you are out in the forest, you're in the Sahara, you experience a lion or any kind of animal. Maybe it's an animal that you don't even recognize, you've never even seen before. There was a part of you in your mind that says danger. Okay. Why is that? Because maybe when you were a child, you also experienced an animal that you had no idea what it was, right? But it just happened to be dangerous in the moment and it attacked you. Okay. It responded to you in a certain way. You felt a sense of fear. You felt a sense of danger. And so every time you experience something that you haven't experienced before, particularly an animal, you are very fearful, right? You are very scared. And your initial response is to run, walk away, get away from it. You don't like animals, right? You have a whole story and identity because of this. This is because when you experience that first, right, initial experience, you didn't have the mental intelligence. You didn't have the know-it-all to actually rationalize it and say, okay, this is an animal I don't know. I had to be mindful. I have to be careful. Okay. This is not a representation of all animals in the entire animal kingdom. This is one single animal. Let me be mindful. I, it could be dangerous. It could not be. But when you were a child, you probably just thought, oh, it's funny. It's cute. Let me go touch it. Rah, right? It got you. Now you have an emotional trigger response reaction to all animals because you simply just identified that as a nice, furry, cute animal. Because of that negative experience, all animals are now bad, right? You don't like animals. So what happened was because of that high intensity of emotions, it triggered the storage of that memory. It also triggered a conclusion as to what you are supposed to do every time you experience an animal, because this one time you were hurt. In order for you not to get hurt again, you have to do the opposite of what you did, or you have to do something, right? Because again, you're a child, you don't know that there are many options, there are many possibilities, but all you know is fear, run, because that is a primal instinct. That is a primal part of our DNA. If we experience fear, danger, run. That's why it's called flight or flight, right? Fight or flight. So ultimately, what your body, your brain has done was create a rewiring system where it bypasses your conscious mind, the ability for you to rationalize the experience and think it through. And it simply created a instantaneous response based on that first experience. Why? Because that first experience, as far as your mind is concerned, was a real thing. It was a dangerous thing. And we do not want to experience that again because our bodies, our minds, we want to live, we want to survive. So instead of taking time to think it through, which caused us to experience the pain and the suffering and the danger in the first place, now what the brain does is says we're going to bypass the rational aspect of ourselves, the curious part of ourselves, the mind, thinking it through, analyzing, collecting data. We're going to bypass that and we're going to rewire our brain to simply identify something similar to it, recognize it, and then immediately run away from it. Okay. Now, of course, this is an example. Many people do hate animals because they did experience something similar to this, but it can apply to anything. It can apply to relationships. You don't like a certain kind of person, right? Because the first relationship you were in, the person who matched this description or looked like this or felt like this did something horrible to you. And therefore, now, every time you see that person that reminds you of that experience, you are instantly shut out. You shut it down. You're not interested. You run away. You don't want to have even an exchange with that individual. You see, it can go on and on and on. Even when it comes to money, same thing applies. You were a child who felt like you had it all. You felt like your family were rich millionaires, right? Because you got everything you desired, because your parents worked hard to get it to you. You had a conversation with your parents. Your parents ended up telling you, we're not rich. Life is hard, right? Making money is hard, right? The root of all evil is money. All these different stories were put in your head. It triggered you because you were probably shocked because what they said didn't align with your reality. And so when that was told to you, it was a high charge of emotion. And then that was stored into your subconscious as a reality, as a belief system, as a way of living and thinking. And now that is stuck inside of you. And now you have to recognize how to change that. But in order to change it, you have to understand what it is, the subconscious mind, and how it works. It's very important to do that. Okay. So understand the subconscious mind is responsible for your beliefs, your values, your habits. They're all stored there. So every belief system that you have, whether it be religion, whether it be relationships, whether it be about money, whether it be about health, all these different things, you have to question and you have to ask yourself, is this belief system, though you believe it, it doesn't make it true. Okay. Now, yes, the power of your beliefs are such that if you believe it, it does manifest. But you have to really ask yourself, is this manifestation, is this belief actually aligning with what I truly desire? That's the question. Because just because a belief can manifest itself, right? It can even confirm itself to you because that's just how the universe works. Whatever you believe, the universe will project that. It will reflect that to you. But now you have to ask yourself and take responsibility and say, hey, does this actually align with what I desire and who I know myself to be? Right? A good indicator of that is thinking like, having the mindset that life sucks, having the mindset that things are hard, having the mindset that relationships are hard. This belief system doesn't serve you. And obviously it's not true because there are many people who are living a beautiful and amazing life. There are many people who are living in an amazing and flourishing relationship. Lots of money, great health, right? There are people who have this. And so if they had this, that is an indicator to you that basically what your belief system isn't aligned with universal truth. And the universal truth is whatever you believe, whatever you decide to believe, will actually materialize itself. So the point is, you get to decide what your belief is. Many people say things like, I don't believe this. I don't believe that. Well, you get to decide that. You get to decide a different belief that aligns with who you know yourself to truly be, ultimately using the guide of what you truly desire. So when you get into beliefs, when you get into habits, when you get into values, Those are all things that were passed down to you and basically installed and programmed into your subconscious mind by way of society, your family, and experiences, particularly experiences that, when you think about it, these experiences, all experiences, are based in the past. They're based on who you were. They're not based on who you are and who you are meant to be. So, by nature of experiences, they aren't based on your current state of evolution, your current state of growth. So, once you understand that, then it really puts things in perspective, recognizing that that was your old self that had that experience. And because that was your old self, that experience was an indicator, it was a symptom, it was a byproduct of who you were at that current moment. So you cannot look at yourself in this current moment and think that that experience that happened in the past is actually going to be the same, because you are not the same. You are a different person now. Your vibration is on a different frequency. So the experience, though it may be even exactly, right, verbatim, exactly the same, your experience of it, how you perceive it, will be still different. So understand the beauty of recognizing the programming of the subconscious, recognizing that that was based on old self, right? Now you're becoming closer and closer to your true self. Then you can understand, oh, okay, here's where you begin to see the opportunity of change, transformation, and taking ownership of yourself. So let's get into how you actually begin to understand the functions like of the subconscious mind, right? And how exactly it gets to begin to be programmed, especially within yourself, like, or what it does, right? Like we talk about the subconscious being responsible for your bodily functions, your bodily behavior, right? Your heart rate. You're not consciously thinking about your heart beating, right? Your breathing. You're not consciously thinking about your lungs expanding and all that stuff, right? You're not thinking about that. You're not thinking about all the muscles involved. You're not thinking about every single cell of your body doing what it's supposed to do. What is doing that? That is your subconscious mind. Now, yes, with the conscious mind, if you are practiced and you are very, very focused, very connected with your body, you can manipulate, you can influence those things, right? You can, of course, consciously practice conscious breathing, right? Breathing in, breathing out, recognizing how it influences your body, your heart rate. You can concentrate on controlling and monitoring and influencing your heart rate. Okay. You can control your body, obviously. When you think about moving your hand, it moves. All right. So you have the ability to influence this thing called the subconscious mind. What's needed is the practice of it. What's needed is the consistency of it. What's needed is recognizing its power. Okay. That's very important for you to do. Something you must recognize is a mandatory part of this spiritual journey, because the subconscious mind is so vast and such a big, has a big role in this whole process. Emotional triggers, right? Behavior responses comes also from the subconscious mind. That gets again into what you experienced as a child, right? What happened, how you rationalize that. Hopefully, right, in the perfect world, when things happen to you, you had a guardian, you had a guide, a parent who were able to help you to rationalize that situation in an empowering way. But if you didn't, then chances are whatever you experienced was something that you just decided, oh, this is bad. Okay. This is bad. I can't experience this. I can't do this, or I can't have this thing ever around me. Right. You come up with that extreme sense of what this means or what this will mean from now on. So it's important to understand that these things, what you identify yourself and who you know yourself to be, are just simply programs of a past experience that truly don't align with who you currently are. and definitely do not align with who you know yourself to be or truly are, right? What this journey is about, and you coming into your true self. So you seeing that and understanding that is very important. Now, let's get into subconscious, the mind, and how dreams is very important to it. Now, when you sleep, you are essentially swimming, experiencing life by way of the subconscious mind. Now, yes, you can practice things like lucid dreaming, where you can actually practice being conscious in the dream state. But when you experience things going on, you have these weird dreams, you have these random things happening in your dreams. That's all, everything coming together. Your subconscious mind just basically sharing, experiencing, you're dialed in, you're tapped into different files of the brain, different experiences, and you're just having this experience of everything all at once at the same time, right? Then you get into multidimensional travel, astral projection, all these different things you're experiencing because your subconscious mind is just extremely powerful. So you really don't know if you're having a dream, if you're just astral projecting, you don't know really what's going on. You're just having this amazing just adventure of all the things happening at once. But what I want you to understand and take from this is when you go to sleep, that is when your mind, right? Remember, the mind is a strategist, right? It is essentially a problem solver. It creates solutions. So if you have a question, if you have something that you wish to understand, you need answers for, you wish to figure out, when you begin to go to sleep, what you can do is ask yourself a question, right? Ask yourself this question that's been on your mind, something that you're looking to solve, how to do this, what's a good way to do this, is this possible, things like that. And make sure you're really like dialed into the experience, to the question as you are going to sleep. Chances are you're going to wake up with an answer. You're at least going to wake up with a guide, right? Something to get you closer to the solution. And the more you do this, the more you will fine tune and you will polish this tool of really using the subconscious mind to give you the answers, because the subconscious mind, like I said before, I hinted before, as I mentioned, astral projection, but it can also access the superconscious mind. The superconscious mind is your direct connection with grand consciousness, which we often call God, or the infinite source, or the universe. And if you tap into that, then essentially you tap into all infinite knowledge. And so, though in your mind, you may not be able to, when I say mind, I mean conscious mind, you may not be able to figure something out. You may not be able to find a solution to something that you wish to, solve. But when you go to sleep and you're going into your subconscious mind, that is when you can tap into the superconscious and ultimately get all the information and wisdom and knowledge there is. Okay. So the subconscious mind is really about tapping into infinite power and access. Right. But if we are not repetitive with that, then it cannot be a mechanism for creating habits, creating patterns. And this is the real like mastery or the real direction you want to go with the subconscious mind is understanding that it is about repetition. And with the repetition, it becomes a habit, it becomes a mechanism, it becomes something that you use to create consistency. Remember, we always talk about consistency when creating anything that you desire. You have to be consistent. And so if you are using the very thing that is designed, right? It is made to create habits. If you use that, then that will most certainly support you in getting to the desire that you want, because that is the thing that creates the consistency, right? That way you don't have to consciously, constantly be thinking about what you need to do, right? Can you imagine how exhausting that would be? Eventually, it goes from consciously willing yourself to do something over and over and over again, to eventually that becoming a pattern, that becoming a habit, that becoming a way of life for you, which makes it easier for you to actually materialize the thing. Okay. So it's about its role in this, in rewiring your pathways to essentially make life better. Right. Initially, we used the example of survival, right? Rewiring your pathway to make sure that you don't have to rationally think things through every time you have a similar experience. But because of the emotional charge, the more emotional you are about it, the more it is going to rewire a connection that bypass critical rational thinking to it just simply being a pattern, a habit, a trigger. You see, the trick is you have to be conscious about what you turn into habits, what you turn into a trigger. Okay. And so this is where you begin to understand the power of really analyzing, being conscious about what you're doing, who you're speaking with, all those things. And the more you continue to do those things, the more it transfers into your subconscious mind as a permanent fixture. And when I say permanent, I don't really mean permanent, but more of a sub-permanent, right? A kind of permanent fixture, because you can change that as well. Just because you constantly put something in your subconscious doesn't mean it has to stay there forever. But the point is, you want to put things in there, right, on purpose that align with your desire, that align with you coming into the self-realization that you create your universe. And this is one of the most powerful tools on how to create your universe. As we go further into mastering your subconscious mind, we've already covered what is the subconscious mind and how it works. Now we need to be able to identify how the subconscious mind shows up in a negative way, right? Really, not so much negative, but in a very unproductive way, by recognizing limiting beliefs, because your subconscious truly is the driving force of your belief systems, your values, how you even view and how you accept the world. But you must understand, though, is that your acceptance of the world is a choice, because you don't have to accept what was fed to you. You don't have to accept what was given to you in the way of beliefs and philosophies and thoughts about life that were given to you by your guides, your guardians, your parents, your grandparents, your community. You can also recognize that you have the ability to choose, thus create your own reality. And when you recognize your power, right, as a individualized expression of the divine essence, what we often call God, and recognize your divinity, then you begin to own the fact that you are a creator. You create your reality, you create your universe. And by mastering your subconscious mind, then you begin to actually begin using the tools that were given to you, right, to actually make this happen. So as we get into mastering this subconscious mind, you must identify, right, what it is that is stopping you from tapping into your divine essence, tapping into your purpose, tapping into the reality of who you are. You must recognize these limiting beliefs that are stopping you, that are creating walls and blockages, that are preventing you from actually pushing through a particular threshold of, whether it be creating a certain amount of income, whether it be attracting a divine, a in sync, a compatible partner, right? Even creating your own tribe or attracting your own tribe of people, friends, community, what have you, creating your own life. Why is it that when you come to a certain point, things stop? Okay. That can be the beginning of you starting this journey. That can be in identifying, okay, you have taken on some progress, but then something happens. You either get sidetracked, distracted, quote unquote, life happens, right? So you have to recognize that all of this, even though you may think it is the universe, right, happening to you, in actuality, the universe is happening from you. So you have to recognize where that happens for you. So that way you can break free of this limiting belief and thus move forward in materializing your desire. So, one of the first things that I think is important to understand when it comes to identifying your limiting beliefs is recognizing your emotional state, recognizing when you're particularly experiencing negative emotions. And you have to always come back down to self awareness, checking in within yourself and asking yourself questions. Why do I feel this? What is triggering this negative, emotion, right? This negative experience. And so when you start to ask yourself questions, the mind, in its very nature to be a solution-based machine, will provide you the answers. It may not happen right away at that first, initial ask of the question, but it will happen over time. You just have to simply keep probing, keep inquiring, keep asking the question, and eventually your mind will reveal the answer to you. Sometimes those answers are so deep in your unconscious that you cannot initially identify them right away. And it takes time and it takes work. The work is really first asking yourself the question, and then over the course of time, you will attract certain tools, certain techniques that will help you to tap into that unconscious. But most times it is not so deep as to being as far down as the unconscious. Sometimes you can identify those things by simply just thinking back to your childhood, thinking back to the first memory you have of, of an experience that relates to the thing that you are trying to, tap into or, unravel or experience, right? So if it's money, if you're having money issues, ask yourself, what is the first experience you remember vividly about money? Okay. That may be an indicator, right? That experience may be an indicator as to why you're having a particular relationship with money, whether it be relationships. What is your first initial experience with relationships, especially a intense emotional experience, right? It could be identifying, the relationship between your parents and seeing how their exchange and how their compatibility and relationship worked may give you an idea as to why you may be having certain issues in relationships or why you're not attracting a particular type of person in your relationships, right? So you keep continue to think about, okay, what is it that I'm experiencing? And then what is my first experience that I can remember vividly with as it relates to this particular topic or theme? Okay. And then when you really identify having a negative association, a negative emotion, when you think about this thing, you have to understand that the negative emotional association is an indicator that there is a misalignment there. A lot of times when we talk about emotions in the spiritual community, we're only talking about using the positive emotions to attract the things that we desire. And that is valid. That is true. Positive emotions is more sustainable and it's ultimately a higher vibration, higher frequency. Thus, it is a stronger emotion. But that doesn't mean the negative emotions have no value. The negative emotions, just like anything when you think about your body, right? If you feel pain, it is a symptom, an indicator of something wrong, right? There is damage happening to your body, and you need to recognize and look in that area in order to recognize where this damage is coming from, right? Same thing with negative emotions. You have to recognize, okay, I am feeling negative emotions. What is the symptom of this? Okay. Or rather, it is a symptom of what is the question you should be asking. Where is this coming from? Okay. It is probably an ongoing thing, and it is so ongoing, you may not even be used to able to identifying it right away because you're so used to having the feeling and then just pushing it away, acting as if it is just simply a normal thing that everybody goes through. It may be common, but it definitely should not be recognized as normal, especially your normal. Your job is to identify these symptoms, link it, find where the source of that symptom is coming from, and then heal, change your perspective of it, heal the experience itself, communicate with your inner child if you have to, like literally have a conversation with your child self, and then work your way through the process of healing, thus forgiving the experience, letting go of the experience, forgiving yourself for holding on to the experience. And that's how you begin to break down and change, right, the initial programming. Okay. But it's important to identify the limiting beliefs first by identifying the negative emotions. Okay. And then what you can do is recognize that sometimes with the limiting beliefs, they can be very apparent and very obvious, right? So, for example, one of the exercises I teach is a simple, very, very practical and simple technique of, okay, think positive, affirm the thing that you desire, and then just wait a second or 2 seconds, a few seconds, and immediately observe. Get into a state of mindfulness where you are just simply observing the thoughts that are coming to your mind. And when you do that, if you say a statement like, I am prosperous, I am abundant, right? I attract money effortlessly and easily. Then wait for a second, observe your own thoughts, and then just simply observe what happens after. What thoughts come into your mind after? Is it a thought of doubt? Is it a thought of feeling like maybe it won't happen? Or a thought of, I'm not sure this is possible. I'm not sure this is going to happen for me. Anything like that is an indicator that there are limiting beliefs. It is important to think positively, but it is also important to recognize what is happening in the background of your conscious thoughts. So consciously, we do our affirmations. We consciously create our affirmation statement, make sure it's in the current, in the most present moment. But then it is important to identify what happens in the background after you make that statement. What is happening in your mind? What is your mind saying? What is your ego saying? Right? What is ultimately your subconscious saying? Because your subconscious is a reflection of all of the patterns and all of the experiences that you've had up until this point. So when you recognize that, that is not a moment to feel guilt or shame and say, oh my God, I don't have the ability to create my own reality. It is, okay? Trust me when I say that it is. You just have to recognize where you show up, where the limiting beliefs show up, and where they are in your mind. Because they may not be something that you experience on a conscious level, right? You're into spirituality, you're reading all the books, you're watching all the videos, you're absorbing all the content. But now you have to make sure that that content is programmed into your subconscious. And by doing that, yes, it takes time, but it takes particular techniques that focus in on allowing those thoughts to go into the subconscious, right? Being mindful about what it is that you say, do, what you consume right before you go to sleep. Being, very conscious in the same way when you wake up. When you wake up, do you immediately go to your phone and go to social media? Are you absorbing negative content? Are you absorbing scarcity mindset information? Those things are very impactful before you go to sleep and after you go to sleep, because remember, sleep is when you are essentially swimming into your subconscious. That's when you are accessing your subconscious the most. So when you identify things like these negative voices or your ego kind of whispering to you, okay, yeah, we said this affirmation, we know and understand the concept. We know that it is possible and people have used it to create whatever it is that they desire. But what if I'm different? What if I'm not supposed to create this? What if I'm not worthy of creating this, right? What if, my family history dictates and says that I'm not good enough, right? What if I'm not worthy of attracting the person that I wish to have in my life, right? What if I am not good enough? What if I'm not the person, right, worthy of having love in my life? Maybe I need to just accept that I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. Maybe I'm going to just accept that I'm going to be lonely for the rest of my life. So you have to be able to identify these things in a way that recognizes that you're going to have moments where sometimes these limiting beliefs show up. They may show up in different layers of who you are. Remember, you have many layers. Your your consciousness, the pure self, right? Your conscious mind, the analytical self, the subconscious mind, that part of us that absorbs and collects all the data and thus makes habits, patterns, right? Reflexes, right? Then you have your unconscious, which is the deep rooted aspect of yourself that may have repressed, trauma, memories, things of that nature that you haven't figured out how to tap into, but yet influence you. Then you have your ego, which is housed in your unconscious mind, right? And the ego has a purpose to protect you, but the ego, when it's not managed properly, can cause a lot of issues and thus really drive those limiting belief systems. So your job is to recognize all those different layers of self and then go deeper into tapping into where those belief systems come from, identifying them, understanding them, and then healing from them. Okay. Now, the next thing is recognizing your negative self talk. That is something that is very superficial, right? Because when you speak, you immediately hear it. You immediately can recognize when you say something like, I don't know if I can do that. Uh, I don't think I can do that. That's not possible for me. You're different. I'm not able to do what you can do. Things like that, where you're coming from a place of really creating those boundaries and limitations for yourself and not acknowledging that if somebody else can do it, though, yes, they may have a talent that may come natural to them, but ultimately, if anybody else can do something, achieve something, then you have the same ability. You come from the same source. You have unlimited wisdom available to you when you utilize all aspects of your mind and tap into your source, right? Your divinity. And so, though you can access anything and create anything that they've created, the real question is, what do you want? Because creating something that somebody else has created, yes, that may make you feel good momentarily, but it will not allow you to feel consistent and permanent fulfillment because it's not coming from your authentic self. You see? So you must understand that in creating that which you desire, you have to identify the things that are stopping you. And it is only you that is stopping you. It is no one else stopping you. And it is most certainly not the universe or not God. Remember, the universe and God is one with you. The universe and God wants whatever you want, right? Truly, it wants whatever you desire. It desires whatever you desire. So you have to stay with that understanding as you create and reprogram your subconscious mind to create that which you desire. So a few things we want to get into is self-awareness exercises. I talk a lot about self-awareness already, but there are some self-awareness exercises that I want to make sure you can put into practice, right? And one of those things is journaling, okay, writing things down. The importance of writing things down is something that a lot of people miss. Now, there are different levels of manifestation, different phases by which manifestation takes place. The first one is in your thoughts, in your mind, okay? Your thoughts is where it all happens. Your thoughts essentially is a dimension of itself where as soon as you think about it, it is. You then have to communicate that with your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind, all aspects of yourself, your ego, to build a level of confidence and conviction, right? Realizing that your mind is connected with the spiritual realm. Your imagination is connected with the spiritual realm. So if you imagine it, it is instantly, right? Now, what you have to do though is translate that from the spiritual realm to the physical. Okay. Now you need to make that material. You need to materialize that. Okay. So there is a process. And everybody's process is generally like when it comes to details of it, the nuances of it, it can be different for each person. But ultimately is that it is the same, right? Thoughts, your way of being, your actions, those all play a big role. Then from the mind comes the speech, right? Where you project it out through sound and vibration when you speak it. Then it starts to become physical, meaning people can hear it. People can even feel it if you say it with energy, with you say it with emotion, right? With power, with intention. You can even inspire others with your own intention for yourself. Then the beauty of writing is that when you write it down, right, on a physical piece of paper with a physical pen, it actually is real at that point. It is materializing at that point. The words are a physical materialization of what was once a thought. Okay. So now you're transforming the thought and what was once in the spiritual realm, you're materializing that into the physical. Okay. From speaking it to now, because even when you speak it, it is momentarily in a way, right? Because you say a word and then the word stops, right? The vibration, the frequency of that energy that's gone out of your mouth, it ceases, right? It stops. Yes, the person can hear you, you hear yourself. Those words, that memory continues to resonate. But over that moment, right, it stops. But when you write it down, essentially writing that down is forever, right? You write down that word, that affirmation, then it is real. And if you continue to write it down, if you continue to even look at it, touch it, right? Feel the ink if you can, feel the grooves in the paper if you can. Say it out loud. It is more real. It is more materialized. Then that sends out more of a frequency, right? To you, your mind, to your heart, your spirit, to all aspects of yourself, and one with the universe, right? And it continues to build. And now you are thinking, talking, you're owning, there's conviction, there's certainty in your movements. And thus that makes you more confident. You're walking, you're doing the things that the person whom created that thought, that imagined and visualized that thing, now you are in the being of that person who has that thing. You see, and so over the course of time, and it's different for everybody because how to reprogram your subconscious will be dependent on the person, right? What happened, what programs they had, how much they believe and understand the concept, and then also how much time and effort and energy, how much intensity with the emotions they put into the reprogramming of the subconscious habit. Because emotions is what programmed it in the first place. And so you must use high intensity, positive emotions to change that programming. Okay. So writing it down is imperative. You have to identify the negative emotions, the negative thoughts. When you identify the negative emotions, the negative thoughts, then you know where you are. When you know where you are, then you can identify which direction you're going in. But if you don't know where you are, then you're basically roaming around and going in circles. This is why for many people, simply just reading a book, looking at a couple of videos isn't enough. This is why even just simply positive thinking isn't enough because it has to go deeper. Positive thinking isn't enough because if you are not identifying the problem first, what's stopping you from creating the thing that you are trying to think positively about and manifest, then your positive thinking is you just running around in circles, or you just simply walking in a forest, right? Not realizing you're going in circles because one leg is more dominant than the other. So you're taking a longer stride with one leg, right, with your right leg than the left, which eventually leads you in a big circle. You see, but if you recognize where you are, okay, by identifying the stars, the constellations above you, right, then you can understand, okay, this is where I am. The stars, the constellations above me, the North Star can direct me and show me this is the way, this is the direction I'm going in, because it also tells me where I am. Where you are is recognizing those negative thoughts and those negative belief systems, right? The negative words. right? The negative self-talk. And trust me, it is okay to recognize them. Please do not feel guilt. Do not feel shame about identifying these things. We all go through this. This is part of the journey. So you have to take it with grace, compassion, and even fun. Embrace the challenge. Embrace the ability to really look at yourself. Don't worry, you don't have to display it in front of everybody. You don't have to showcase it. You don't have to act like for other people because other people are not involved in this process. This is only for you. So you take it, you look at all aspects of yourself, you analyze it, you take the aspects of yourself that are strong, that are clear. You use that to build momentum toward healing and identifying the things that you are not so strong at, right? And then you continue to build those things up. You take those weaknesses and you slowly turn them into strengths. But it takes identifying the weakness first in order for you to do so. You see? So identifying those thoughts, especially the reoccurring thoughts, is imperative. And it should be easy to do. And if you feel like you don't have the ability or you're feeling like you're comfortable enough to share this process with other people, contact your closest friends, your closest relatives, those people who really know the core of who you are, and just ask them, when it comes to my conversation, what is it that you find I have negative thoughts about that's reoccurring or that I have limiting beliefs about? And even whether you agree with what they say or not, please take it in. If you hear that from multiple people, right, recognize that that means that there's a pattern. That is your opportunity. Now, if you hear something just off the wall, okay, take it in. Please take note of it. But if you hear it often from multiple people, especially people who don't know each other, then please pay attention to that because that is an indicator. That is an opportunity for you to really say, okay, this thing here, this is what's been told to me, but I don't see it for myself. Start paying attention. Start really looking at yourself differently from as much of an objective viewpoint as possible. And then that way you can identify it. And when you identify it, then you can ask yourself the question, where did this come from? When it comes to this particular category, topic, theme, what is my initial, most vivid memory, right? What happened as a child when I experienced something like this or something related to this? All right. Even teenage years, maybe even adult years, but adult years, you'll be able to identify it instantly. The more traumatic it is, especially during our later years, the easier it is to recap and think about that trauma, that experience, that memory. And then we can definitely tap into healing yourself from it. But sometimes you have to go further back to change, unproductive limiting beliefs. And sometimes that means tapping into your subconscious mind and really get into those memories and really go far back. Okay. So it's very important. Get into those childhood programs. Get into those childhood programs and identify them, communicate with that inner child, have a conversation, support that inner child to move forward from a place of love and compassion. Because going into childhood experiences and trauma isn't about blaming. It isn't about pointing fingers. It is about simply recognizing that now you are an adult and now you can take full ownership of your journey. Because when you do that, then you're allowed to move on. You're allowed to forgive, right? Again, not forgive the person, not say the person is okay now, but forgive yourself, forgive the situation, forgive your child self, right? For not knowing or not having the skills to process that particular moment in a productive way, okay? And let go of the limiting belief itself, all right? So the key here with understanding and getting over and learning how to, recognize and identify limiting programs is to get into those emotions, get into those triggers. If you're triggered, you have to identify why. Look into your speech? How are you speaking? What are you thinking? Okay. When you get into that, get into the source, get into why, get into tapping into the memory, what happened. And when you start to do that, just that alone will send you on a path of truly understanding yourself. When you start to understand yourself 100%, then you begin a beautiful process of 100% acceptance and love for yourself. And then that is where the ultimate experience of bliss and joy happens, because now you recognize and know who you are. Okay. So please take that with you and understand that you are a divine creature. You are a divine being. And there is nothing besides yourself that is stopping you from being yourself, your true self. All right. So recognize that. Let go of the idea that there are other things outside of you that's stopping you. The sooner you take ownership of yourself, the sooner you own the things that you desire. As we go through this journey of recognizing the power of the subconscious mind, it is imperative that we understand what it is and how it works. And we've covered that. So now let's go into how exactly we actually use the subconscious mind and get into reprogramming the unproductive, limiting beliefs, the old paradigms of thought and thinking how life works, and recognizing that you determine how life works. You define the meanings and the purpose of everything that happens in your life and how you can actually change it, manipulate it, transform it into something that is in alignment with what it is that you desire, right? For your greater good, not only just for yourself. And this isn't really coming from a selfish point of view. This is recognizing the oneness between yourself, the oneness between other people, the oneness between yourself and the universe. Okay. When you understand the oneness of all things, you recognize that when you take care of yourself, you are essentially taking care of the entire universe. And so as we go deeper into how to program the subconscious mind, I want you to understand that these techniques are very simple, but they're very, very profound. The reason why many people are not mastering their own subconscious mind is because they're not putting in the work. Because one of the fundamental pillars of reprogramming the subconscious mind is first self-awareness, practicing the ability to look at yourself every moment, from moment to moment, especially moments where you feel triggered, you feel emotionally charged, right? You feel uneasy about something. And also when you realize that you need to get focused or you need to get, disciplined, or recognize that your ability to create what you want is only on you, is exclusively on you, and you have to be completely responsible for it. But you also have to understand that you need to be consistent. And if you aren't consistent, right, if you aren't in a position where you recognize that this takes regular effort, and when you're not regular, when you're not consistent with it, then you're probably going to go back a little bit to the old programs. Thus, go back to the old life that you were living, which left you unfulfilled, unhappy, maybe even depressed. Okay. This is about recognizing that you have the keys, you have the tools to actually create the life that you want and be the person you're meant to be. Instead of sitting back and having this belief and understanding deep within you that something isn't right, that your life isn't really in alignment with who you know yourself to be. But you just have to do the work to be who you know yourself to be. All right. So we're going to get into techniques on how to program your subconscious mind. The first thing is very common, which is visualization. Visualization is very important. Mental visualization, mental rehearsals of what it is that you are looking to achieve, right? The big picture of what it is you wish to materialize, what you wish to do, who you know yourself to be, like recognizing, you are maybe a performer, you are a comedian, you are a writer, right? You are a traveler, you are an explorer. recognizing and seeing yourself as that on a consistent basis, using particular times like before you go to bed, when you wake up, to actually visualize and see yourself being yourself. Okay. And then allowing yourself in everyday situations, using that to play with your imagination and visualizing yourself doing things in connection with the beingness you know yourself to actually be. Okay. So, for example, even if you are simply going to the supermarket, visualize yourself going to the supermarket. If you desire to, say, be a traveler, visualize yourself going to the supermarket and picking up, snacks and foods that are ideal for your travels. Okay. Now, you can simply just imagine yourself and exploring and looking at different foods that might be ideal for that, learning about those different snacks and foods, or you can actually buy a few of those snacks just to kind of play along and continue to be in this space of embodying this essence, this person, this character, right? That you truly are, that you're also in the development of. And so you have to recognize opportunities in everyday living, even if it is mundane tasks like going to the grocery store, going to the post office. I mean, how many people still go to the post office? But still, going to the bank, things like that. And then visualize yourself in alignment with what it is that you desire when it comes to that particular mundane task. All right. Picture yourself going to the bank, visualizing yourself changing currencies from, the American dollar or whatever currency you live in to the currency by which you wish to travel to. You see, so learn things like that to prepare you for the reality, the realization, the manifestation of that which you desire from simple everyday tasks that you find to be disconnected with the thing that you have, the thing that you want. All right. Because it is when you start to play with that idea, you start to really see how simple it is, right, to actually transition from how you think and how you're caught up in believing life is, right, and breaking down the limiting beliefs that it may be hard to transition from where you currently are to where you want to be. Because a lot of times it is us making it hard, right? It is you thinking that the process of living the life you want to live will be a hard transition, when reality is way simpler than you think. And if you start just playing with the idea, visualizing, rehearsing, and simply just looking at different tips, small things here and there, right? How to get a passport, right? How to get a photo for the passport. How much does a passport cost? Things of that nature. Thinking about, okay, if you want this particular car, what can you use that car for? Visualize how, the mileage on that car is, how much the gas costs, right? Visualize what you can do, exploring, driving that car, going to different events with that car. You see, if it is a partner, being in a relationship, visualize yourself being in bed with that person, having great conversations with that person. When you're in bed by yourself, have those conversations with yourself as if the person is there as well. So you continue to play with your imagination and rehearse living the life that you want to live. So that way, when the opportunity comes, you're ready, right? You're ready, you're prepared, you're mentally, mature, and you know exactly what you need to do and who you are to align with that thing. The universe works that way. When you are mentally, when you are, spiritually visualizing and practicing, you're essentially telling the universe, this is what it is that I want, right? You are sending out a frequency. Your mind is the reality of all things. The universe, this physical world, is simply just a reflection of that inner mind, that inner world that you have. And so it's just simply a matter of letting the universe catch up, because you, as a spiritual divine being, are way faster in creation than the universe is. So you have to be patient. Just continue to play, visualize, continue to rehearse, continue to imagine. And as you continue to do that, you are matching the frequency of that thing. And then the universe will match that frequency with you, thus materializing and manifesting the thing that you desire. Okay. So be patient, not with yourself, but more with the universe. The universe has to keep up with you. Okay. So then we're going to get into affirmations, positive self-talk. So we mentioned negative self-talk and recognizing negative words like I can't, maybe even I'll try, right? I try to do this. I'm trying to do that. Trying indicates that there's a high probability that you're going to fail. But when you are connected spiritually and you recognize you are the creator of your universe, there is no failure. There is simply just doing or not doing. Or along the process, the materialization of the doing, you may be able to recognize there was something else you'd rather be doing. Okay. So in a sense, that initial thing that you wish to materialize wasn't a failure. It was just simply a path to get you on a different path, right? To get you on a better path, you see, and that is okay. That is part of your understanding and unraveling as to what it is your consciousness wants, what it is that you truly desire, because at this point you are learning, right? You're learning who you truly are. The practice of self-awareness and looking within oneself is a very daunting practice for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to spend time with themselves and really see themselves because people tend to feel shame, feel guilt, right? They don't want to do the work. And this is why many people are struggling to create the life that they desire. They're struggling to tap into their purpose, which ultimately will lead to fulfillment and happiness. So you have to be willing to put in that work to recognize who you truly are. And then everything else will fall into place, you see? So you have to recognize the negative self-talk. You have to practice the positive self-talk. And a lot of times that transition looks like you not speaking much because you are learning to identify before you say something. You're learning to quickly recognize the negative self-talk before it comes out your mouth. And so it takes practice to replace those negative beliefs, right? Those negative words with positive words. So you have to really just simply recognize the negative self-talk before it comes out your mouth and out into the universe. And then, right, stop it before it happens. And then just simply chill and think about what it is that you should be saying, what it is that supports you, right? And you materializing that which you desire. So then you rechange or restructure your language. And just like learning any new language, it takes time. You see, just because we are still speaking English per se, then you have to still recognize the verbiage, right? The tone, the way you are saying it, right? The words, if it is from a negative point of view or a positive point of view. So once you understand that, then you start to get more comfortable with recognizing positive words, right? And positive self-talk and learning that affirmations is not something you just say once in a while, you know, something that you just say in particular times of the day, but affirmations are actually how you speak. You speak in terms of affirmations, right? Affirming, creating, backing up what it is that you have created in your mind, putting it out into the universe. So then the universe again will continue to keep up. All right. So remember, affirmations is not just a statement, but it is a language. That is very important for you to understand. It's not just a statement. It is a language. It is a way you speak. So though affirmations are important, affirmations are a time, a moment where you really get dialed in without any distractions and you just make statements that affirm the desire as if it is yours. Okay. You affirm to yourself and to the universe that it belongs to you. Simple as that. In the present moment, it is yours. You have that. You possess that. That is your reality. You embody it, right? It's like saying, I have two legs, I have two arms. You embody that. You move as such. You walk as such. You don't even think about, hopefully when I wake up tomorrow, I'll have two arms, two legs. Okay. Now, unfortunately, some people are not equipped with that, but most of us are, right? Most of us are born with a mind to be able to comprehend this knowledge. And so we don't wake up in the morning saying, hopefully, or I'm trying to wake up with the ability to comprehend this knowledge. You just simply do, right? It is so affirmed. You embody it. You wake up without question of it. This is essentially how affirmations are designed to rewire your brain. And when you affirm, right, you practice with the statement. And then again, the affirmations become a language, how you speak. And depending on who you're communicating to, they have to understand it. They have to recognize, okay, I hear you. I understand the language you're speaking. They recognize and they even see you on a deeper level. So it's very beautiful when you get into affirmations on a deeper level and recognize that it's just not one statement. It's just not one sentence that you say in the mirror, even though that is highly possible, highly powerful. It isn't something that you just, you know, uh, isolate in one moment in time. It's something that you recognize and you embody every second in time, every moment in time, you see? So with that, there comes the deeper level of how affirmations and where affirmations came from, and that is hypnosis. As a certified hypnotist, I've learned that hypnosis goes so deep into the subconscious mind that you can go into memories that you've never experienced before, you never even thought you had. You can go into places, you can work on yourself on a deeper level. You can even learn to practice self-hypnosis. You can even use audio tracks to support you into going deep within the subconscious, recognizing patterns and reprogramming those patterns. You see, so it's important to recognize these tools that are available to you because yes, though you can do it yourself, it is okay to seek support from a professional, somebody who has experience to help you out along this journey. So as well as hypnosis, you can also use guided meditation. Guided meditation will be less invasive than hypnosis, though hypnosis is done by a certified hypnotist who, somebody you should trust and you resonate with. But guided meditation is a less invasive, practice where you can, just kind of let yourself be guided through the process of meditation, because a lot of us don't practice meditation enough to feel comfortable and confident in your ability to really allow yourself to be still and recognize the separation between you, right? The I and your thoughts or your emotions, you see. So you have to understand that separation in order for you to begin even the process of going into deep self-hypnosis or hypnosis, okay? So meditation will then lead you into the realm of knowing what it feels like to experience hypnosis. Understand also that hypnosis is not something where a person will guide you into a deep state where you can't control, right, yourself. You have no control, and they can tell you to do certain things that are outside of your character. All right. It is something that only is guided by you. Okay. They are just facilitating and supporting you in guiding yourself through the process. So hypnosis is actually self-hypnosis, but it is guided by somebody who is a professional who knows how to support you through your own journey. All right. Very important to understand and know. Now, the real key to truly tapping into the subconscious is repetition and emotion. Those are the two things that must be, okay? Repetition and emotion. Just like when you were in school, to learn the answers for a test or to learn the knowledge, the information, you had to constantly repeat it over and over and over. All right. When you had the frustration, you had the anxiety of needing to pass the test, that maybe helped, maybe not. Some people are different. Some people need to be in a state of relaxation in order to receive information and knowledge and to absorb it. Right? Some people say that they work well under pressure. I personally don't believe that. I think it's a thing that we tell ourselves just so we can procrastinate. But the true essence of it is Emotions will charge you, right? Will allow you to open up the gates of your subconscious mind, because emotions are looked at as something that helps you to basically tap into that primal instinct, that survival mode, you see. And though we have evolved from only thinking in terms of survival, now we're thinking in terms of thriving, right? Initially, the negative emotions is what anchored in a experience, right? A action, an event in your mind. You then translated that into a conclusion, an understanding. Whether you were equipped to rationally understand it or not, still, that's what the mind does, right? It made a rewire. It bypassed your ability to rationally think things through. And because you need to learn how to react instantly in survival situations, it made this a reflex, right? A trigger. And so now you have to recognize, okay, this is how the subconscious works. This is how I have to rewire this process, right? So you want to think about, okay, in order to change the program that doesn't serve you anymore, you have to recognize the skills and the tools to do so. So being consistent, right? Constantly visualizing, seeing, rehearsing, being, doing, implementing, then adding the emotional charge. So instead of thinking in terms of survival and fear, think in terms of positivity, gratitude, okay? Feeling good, feeling satisfied, feeling happy, fulfilled. Because remember, in your mind, you have already achieved that thing. And so gratitude is going to be the emotion that creates that subconscious reprogramming. You see, so it is important that you recognize these two things, because though you can use the negative emotions, the thing that I teach with the negative emotions is, though it is valid initially, it is not sustainable, right? Nobody wants to continue to have negative emotions, especially when they have materialized that which they desire, because then what's the point? The point of materializing that which you desire is to be connected, to have a deeper sense of connection with yourself and the universe, to feel happy and fulfilled. Nobody wants to be upset, angry, frustrated. That is just a program, right? That is just a mechanism. So you can use those low frequency emotions to get you through and make that breakthrough, but you have to use gratitude in order for you to actually maintain it. So you're not burnt out, so you don't lose your mind, so you don't go insane. So you have to transition from using the negative emotions to the positive emotions, which is why I say just focus on the positive emotions in the first place. So as you are rehearsing, visualizing, you're going to use gratitude. You're going to be thankful for that which you are visualizing and that which you have, because it is in your mind. You see, don't focus on those times where you get the bills and you see, oh my God, okay, I have been visualizing, but these bills are still coming. I get that. Use those negative emotions for the moment. Pay those bills. Say to yourself, okay, I am overpaying or struggling to pay these bills. Let me get started. Let me get aggressive about the actions I need to take to transform my life from what it is to what I know it should be. Make that breakthrough. And then once you are in the action of it, you're going to transition from the negative emotions to the positive emotions in alignment with recognizing that these actions align with what it is that I already have in my mind. So you want to be grateful for that. And you want to continue to compound these actions over and over and over again. This is where this is where positive thinking alone, right, becomes more, right? Positive thinking is one aspect, it's a very superficial level. But when you are incorporating repetitive thinking, you are incorporating action, thought, speech, association, people who are around you, right? Now it is going into subconscious reprogramming. And it is going into not just negative thinking, but I'm sorry, not just positive thinking is going into positive being, you see? So you're transitioning different levels. You're going from, negative emotions to fuel you to feel a frustration and make a breakthrough. And then you're transforming those negative emotions into positive emotions, positive thinking. And then that eventually turns into positive being, because the positive thinking is in association with positive emotions, positive actions, productive actions. Okay. So you keep going and you keep compounding and stacking up these different skill sets. And every moment, every day, you're getting better and better at those skill sets. So you have to be in daily practice of these things. Beyond daily, momentarily, like every moment is an opportunity to practice this and rewire, right, your neural pathways for you to actually make sure the mind, which is your tool for solution and strategy, to create and figure out ways to create the things that you desire, thus create the life that you wish to have, right? Because there are infinite paths to doing so. Don't get stuck in the idea that there's only one way to do it. There are infinite ways to do it. The main thing is making sure your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, right? Your ability to observe, your ability to recognize patterns are all in alignment with the intention of creating that thing. Be consistent with it over and over and over and over again. Visualize it repetitively, consistently, emotionally. Then it will transform into you not just thinking about being this person you know yourself to be, creating this thing you know yourself, you're meant to have, but actually being that, you see? So gratitude is very important. It is the power that fuels manifestation. So when you recognize that, then you will absolutely start to see change happens. Another thing is very important is letting go. Forgiveness is a very important tool. Now, I've mentioned this before, but you need to understand that as we go into really diving deep into our subconscious mind, there are some things that may come up that you haven't thought about a lot of, you haven't even dealt with, you may not even have recognized that it was there. And so you may feel and deal with a lot of different trauma that may come up that you have buried deep down. And so it's important to be ready and prepared to face them, process them, but more importantly, let them go, meaning forgive. Now, this isn't about letting the person off the hook. If somebody did something to you, if something happened to you, this is about freeing yourself of the burden of, pain, of anger, of feeling shame, feeling regret, feeling all those negative things that people hold on to. And they think they are holding it on to the person, but no. Many times when we feel hurt, when we feel betrayed, when we feel trauma, we are holding on to it, and it is holding yourself down. So your job is to forgive that situation, is to let it go. Now, things like communicating with your inner child is very important. Things like shadow work is very important. So go deep into that and just be ready to communicate with yourself on a deeper level, communicate with that past self, and understand that though you are visualizing it, that doesn't mean it isn't real. That doesn't mean it isn't actually happening in your mind, in your subconscious. Okay. In hypnosis, there's a thing called regression, where you can go back in time, so to speak, back to a particular event, communicate with yourself in that particular time and support yourself, walk yourself through the process when somebody wasn't available to do that at the time. But now you can go back and you can do that for yourself. Okay. When we talk about inner child, right, we're talking about your inner child. Now, as a parent, you may think that your children are your children, but they are not. They are their own person. You are simply guiding them through their own life. Your true child is your inner child. So you have the ability, though, to tap into communicating with your inner child, which is your true child. You're a true child, right? This is your child, literally. So now you can go back with the tools that you have and pass those tools down to that child, visualizing and thinking about that past event, and help them and support them through it. And by doing so, guess what? That child then grows up to be your current self, which frees you up from the negativity that you may have been carrying since that event has happened. So you free yourself, you heal yourself, and you recognize that, okay, you have the ability to go back in time, essentially, walk yourself through certain situations, heal from it, and thus become in the present moment as a healed version of yourself. And thus that will help you and support you along your way of being the true version of yourself. So understand that this process can go really deep. And it is very important for you to understand that it is a process that can take time, and that's okay. But simply recognizing all of the things that we've covered. What is the subconscious mind? How does it work? Okay. How is it programmed? How to reprogram it is all you need to keep going in creating the life that you desire and being who you truly are. So as we take these tools, recognize this is your journey toward recognizing and being the creator of your universe. So go ahead, learn these tools, practice these tools, meditate on them, contemplate them, and then continue to create your reality in alignment with who you know yourself to be. Manifestation is a very important part of the spiritual journey. And many people think that when we think in terms of learning to tap into our power to materialize and manifest anything that we want, that we're coming from a very egocentric, selfish space. But in reality, manifestation is coming from a more of a conscious, selfish space. Now, what I'm referring to is spiritual selfishness, where you actually recognize the oneness of all things, that you are one with everything. You are one with the universe. And so by being selfish and really understanding that connection between all things and taking care of yourself first, you recognize that you are the creator of the universe that you're experiencing. So it is a different take on understanding that manifestation isn't something about, just creating something and having something for yourself to experience and for you to hoard and, be egotistical about, or just simply desiring to create things that have no real value. The journey of manifestation is actually about tapping into your understanding and the realization that you are a creator. So though it may start with wanting, say, $1 million, it may start with wanting that dream home, that dream car. It may evolve into wanting a deep, meaningful connection with another person, like a relationship. And then eventually, the beauty of manifestation and in being conscious about practicing manifestation, because it is something that we're always practicing anyway. The difference is by being conscious about it, you are going on this journey of discovering that every time you materialize something, it fortifies within you the understanding that you are the creator of your universe. And then that sends you on a very deep, very amazing experience and journey of self-realization. But this journey, to take it consciously, we have to go deep into the tools of what helps us to materialize and manifest the things that you want. The subconscious mind is one of those tools. In fact, it may even be the biggest tool, right, in your arsenal of tools and gifts that you have on this realm to create the things that you want. Your mind is a machine. It is a machine made to help you come up with solutions, to strategize, to figure out what's going on within yourself, so that way you can really project the reality of your inner self outward into your outer self, thus creating the things that are going on within you out into the world, right? Hence, manifestation, materialization. And so we're going to go into connecting the subconscious mind and how it relates into manifestation. Okay. Now, the first thing I want you to understand is that you have to align with your desires. So when you think about your desires, many times people think in terms of fantasizing. They think in terms of wishful thinking, right? They think in terms of imagining, but to a degree by which it stops. You have a moment where you need to escape. You need to practice escapism. One of the ways we practice escapism is maybe reading a book, watching a movie, sometimes listening to music. We often want to distract ourselves from the life that we are currently experiencing because the life you are currently experiencing isn't really in alignment with who you know yourself to be. This is why you may feel unhappy. You may feel frustrated. You may feel anxious, depressed, all of these negative frequency vibrations and emotions. And so you have to be able to identify that your desires are not simply just something you should fantasize about and then leave them alone, right? And then avoid them and then just assume that isn't being realistic, that you're being delusional. You have to really understand that this desire that continues to show up in your mind, in your spirit, in your soul, in your consciousness is trying to lead you, is trying to tell you something. Now, the first thing I want you to really think about and contemplate on is that your old beliefs equal your current life. And so if you are not happy with your current life, you have to understand that your current life is a byproduct of the old beliefs. The old beliefs, the old actions, your old way of thinking, all of the things that encompasses and really programs the subconscious mind. And so if you are at a space where you look at your current life and you're not happy, you're not fulfilled, it isn't because that is essentially who you are. That is just a byproduct, an expression, the result of who and how you were being in the past. So when you think about it in terms of recognizing right now as a result of the way I used to think, then it gives you some insight when you look at it from a point of view of opportunity rather than a point of view of feeling like, oh, I messed up, I made mistakes, feeling shame, feeling guilt, right? Feeling remorse, regret. Instead of doing it that way, we always have to recognize seeing an opportunity in the setbacks. So you want to look at it as, okay, well, if my current life is a result of my old beliefs, if I change my beliefs right now, then that means my future will be much brighter. If I align my beliefs with what it is that I want, then it's just simply a matter of time before what I want becomes physical reality. So you have to understand that your old beliefs equal your current life, whereas the new ideas that you have, and it may not be a new idea, it may be an idea that you've had for some time, but a new idea meaning that you are actively participating in creating it, materializing it, putting it into action. A new idea will actually create your desired life. So new ideas equal desired life. So it's important for you to recognize that if you are in alignment with these new ideas, with this passion, with this curiosity, with this desire that you have to do a particular thing, it is going to materialize into the life that you wish to have, the life that you truly desire to live. Your job, though, is to identify where you were basically coming up short in the past, right? And then identifying how you must change. You must pivot. You must see things from a different perspective. You must change your mindset. You must immerse yourself in the reality of that desire, the frequency of that desire. You cannot change your current situation if you do not change yourself first. Now, changing yourself is simple. And it's simply a matter of immersing yourself into the reality, the thoughts, the emotions, the actions consistently right? With a high intensity of emotions to really fortify and program that way of thinking, that frequency, that vibration into your subconscious mind as a fact, as a way of being for yourself. And eventually that becomes habit, that becomes habitual, that becomes a pattern, that becomes your lifestyle. And your lifestyle always dictates, determines the result of what your life will be. So you have to take ownership and recognize this is simply a matter of continuing to pile on the reality you wish to experience in your life the best way you can possible. All right. So now you have to get into recognizing your role in the subconscious mind and materialization, manifestation, how it resulted in you manifesting the thing, the life that you're living now. When you understand that, then you can say, okay, now I have to take ownership of my current situation, my current thoughts, my emotions, my actions, my environment. When you take ownership of those things and you make sure that they align, they remind you, they support the things that you desire, then eventually you become that desire. You embody that desire. Okay. And then the desire has to materialize for you. It just has to. There is no other way about it. It's a universal law. All right. This is science. Every time you are consistent, you are dialed in to what it is that you desire. You make sure that you cultivate an environment that is focused on that thing. That thing has to materialize in your life at some point. You just have to simply own it, be consistent, be committed. Now, when it comes to recognizing the obstacles, right, the resistance that often happens is when you desire and you are doing the work and you are visualizing, you are rehearsing, right? You are constantly in your mind seeing yourself having the thing, being the person. Sometimes there is a sense of internal resistance that you have to overcome. Now, the trick with that is don't feel like the resistance that may come up is a sign that you need to quit. It is a part of the journey. It is a part of the process. So recognize it as such. Recognize it as progress. Okay, not regression. Recognize it as an opportunity for you to see that you are going in the right direction. Because if there isn't resistance, that means that there isn't growth. If there isn't a sense of feeling discomfort, then that means you are not pushing yourself and you're not going to make the breakthrough to change the frequency, to change the vibration, to actually go into a different dimension, so to speak, of reality for yourself. You see, every time you change a vibration of frequency, every time you change thought patterns and you recognize negative thought beliefs, negative paradigms, and you elevate even in the slightest, you are essentially changing dimensions. You are changing realities. And so whenever that happens, it takes a little bit of discomfort, for lack of a better term, right? A little bit of a shift, right? Movement is happening. And so when you experience the resistance, that means you are at a threshold that you are about to break through. You see, breaking through means that there is resistance. And the breakthrough represents transformation. It represents evolution. It represents progress. So when the resistance happens, you acknowledge it. Acknowledging everything always takes away its power over you. But if you continue to avoid, you continue to act like it isn't there, you continue to not deal with it, procrastinate, hesitate, then it creates a space where it can kind of generate more power within your mind, especially. But when you face it and say to yourself and understand that you are more powerful than the thing, you are more powerful than anything, then it will create some discomfort, of course. But that discomfort you acknowledge as part of the journey of the breakthrough. That is the breakthrough. You see, so it's important to recognize this resistance and understand the resistance is part of the achievement of the goal. So embrace that and see that as you being close. Okay. When you feel tired, when you feel a little burnt out, when you feel like you're not getting anywhere, those are all indicative signs of resistance. Okay. That is all indicative signs that you are at the threshold. And if you just keep going, you will eventually break through that threshold a lot quicker than you think. And then you will be in another stratosphere of reality. All right. And that is where you will begin to actually see the results, the fruits of your labor, right? You will see the results of the work you have put in. All right. So it's important to recognize those things. Now, as we get into the practical, right, steps toward manifestation and using your subconscious mind, really, I want you to get into evolving or getting over this idea of manifestation as far as this is something that you need to do, right? You really want to get into another realm or way of thinking about manifestation, not as a something you do, but as someone you are being. You want to embody the essence of that which you desire. Okay. You want to embody your desired outcome as if it's already achieved. Okay. It is already there. It is already yours. Now, when you have something already, think about it. You don't continue to wish for it. You don't continue to want it, to desire it. You appreciate it. You use it, right? You acknowledge it, but there's a shift in your consciousness about your relationship to that thing because now it's yours. Now, yes, you can get into, instead of wanting it, desiring it, and feeling like you need it and don't have it, now you're in a space where you have it. You are in absolute appreciation of it, gratitude of it. And now you are using it. You are optimizing it. Okay. And then you are at another space. You have to be at that space. That space is where you actually shift your frequency. You shift your vibration. You shift your reality by already being in that space before it physically materializes, because the physical happens after the spiritual. So you have to be spiritually there already. When you're spiritually there already, then the universe will follow suit and support you and materialize it in the physical form. All right. The mind, the spirit is way stronger, way more powerful than the physical. So that comes first. That supports, that fortifies, that governs, that gives life to the physical. All right. So you have to trust in that. Most times we are first physical. We think we need to see something first in order to believe it. Right. In order for us to understand it, in order for us to feel like it's real. But it is real first in our minds. This physical form is the illusion. That's the trap that we all get caught up in life. We think that we need to experience something first in order to we need to experience it in a physical form in order for us to understand or believe it. But when you believe it and own it first, when you embody it, you are creating a universe that this physical universe has to follow. Okay? Everything happened first from a spiritual standpoint. Your body, your ability to develop as you continue to develop and grow in this physical body, it is a result of your consciousness first. Right? Your body is a physical representation of consciousness. Your consciousness came into this body before it was born, and thus the body continues to move, grow, age based on your consciousness. All right. So we talk about embodying the desire. Now, as we get into affirming the belief to support your goal, remember, affirmations affirming isn't just about making a statement. It's about speaking a language. It's about speaking the language of the universe. It's about speaking a language to yourself with yourself. Okay, yes, you have to say it out loud sometimes because people are hearing. Sometimes you want people to hear. You want the universe to hear. But ultimately, you have to affirm it within yourself to resonate, to match the frequency of your desires, and thus the universe will follow that. All right. Remember, speech is one of those things that represents the phases of materialization of the thing, right? It is literally a vibration that is coming out of you. So recognize that, and that vibration can change based on the words, based on your tone, right? Based on where you are personally, what you're feeling. So be mindful. This is why we need to really get into being mindful about our speech, about the words. But it's really about embodying that in your mind, because you're speaking things in your mind, right? When you have a thought, I mean, it may not be English, it may just be, feelings, but ultimately the conversation, the dialogue that you're having, the feelings that you're having internally is affirming. You're affirming something. So you have to really check in with yourself and make sure that what it is that you're saying to yourself within yourself is in alignment with the desire, right? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling worried? Are you feeling like you don't want to do this? Are you feeling annoyed? Are you feeling tension? Like, what are the feelings? Are you feeling grateful? Are you feeling, excited? Are you feeling, a sense of passion? Recognize all those feelings. All right. Those feelings within you are affirmations. They're just not coming out in English language or any other language. They're just existing as a form of communication within your own body, between you, right? Between consciousness, between ego, between, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind. All those different aspects of who you are constantly having a telepathic communication, language, conversation with one another. And you have to make sure that that conversation is in alignment with your desire, that it supports your goal. Okay. Now, the next thing is take inspired action. Action is very important. This is not about visualizing and just waiting, right? This is about, yes, visualizing, imagining, rehearsing, speaking, feeling, right? But also action. When you have all those things and you're acting, right, with all of those other things in alignment with your action, there is nothing that can stop your action. There is nothing that can stop you. But you can have really good action, but if it is being supported by negative thoughts, negative feelings, right, negative speech, then the action is just not going to be powerful. If you get to actually doing the action, because when you have all those other things, you're not likely to take action. That's part of the problem. Having all those other things will support the action. It will inspire the action. So you have to make sure that all those things are in proper alignment. And then when you take action, that action is way more powerful, 100 times more powerful than action that is based or grounded or fortified with negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative emotions. Okay. So, but the actions though are profoundly important. Remember, we are living in a physical reality, a physical world. So that means though the spiritual is the most important and most powerful aspect of who you are, it must be led, right? It must be focused out, expressed outwardly, physically. Because though we are spiritual beings, we are living in a physical body. And so that means we have to do physical things. That is why we are here. We are here in the physical realm to do physical things. So you must make sure that the physical actions are definitely fortified and is being directed by the spiritual. This is why you have to get everything else that is spiritually connected, your words, your emotions, your thoughts, all those things must be in alignment to propel your physical body in the right way and the right actions that are aligned with your desire. And that's why those actions will be way more profound and way more effective when you are spiritually aligned with the desire. All right. The next thing is, this thing right here is the thing that I think when we talk about having a desire, wanting to materialize, manifest something. And then you have that little voice that tells you, oh, you're delusional. Oh, this is crazy. Oh, this is impossible. I'll try. We'll see. Maybe one day. The key, really, to overcoming that inner voice, which is really the ego, is staying focused. Stay focused. Remember, that inner voice, the ego, is part of the resistance I was talking about earlier. It's part of you hitting that threshold. But when you continue at that threshold, you make the breakthrough. The only way you continue to push that threshold is by staying focused. Now, what I mean by staying focused is continue on with the understanding that this is what you desire. You're going to acknowledge the voice that you're hearing that's telling you maybe you're delusional, maybe it's not possible for you, maybe you don't have the skills, you're not good enough, but you're going to continue to stay focused because you know, all right, the core of who you are a divine being, all right? You are a individualized expression of that which we call God. Now, with that being said, you cannot be stopped unless you stop yourself. And if you listen to that voice, then you're gonna stop, right? You're gonna quit. If you just follow and think that that voice is absolute, but it isn't. That voice is based on the false self, not the true self, not your consciousness. So though you can acknowledge that voice, see it as you reaching that threshold point where you are now about to break through into another stratosphere, another level, another frequency, another reality, another dimension, you see. But you have to simply just stay focused. Think of it as a magnifying glass. When you hold it, you do that exercise in school where you have the magnifying glass and you let the rays of the sun come through the magnifying glass on a piece of paper or a piece of wood, and it creates a fire or it starts to burn that paper. What you are doing when you are staying focused is you are utilizing all aspects, all those rays of light that is you, your thoughts, your emotions, your speech, your environment, right? Gaining knowledge, watching videos, taking courses, reading books, right? Meditation, visualization before sleep, visualization after sleep. When you are taking all those tools and you're focusing it on one thing, right, through that magnifying glass, which is your mind, and you have it focused, you have all those rays of light, those skills focused in on one thing. It then makes a beam so powerful that even if you are focused on a single spot and say that voice shows up, look at that voice as maybe it's windy that day and a leaf blows between the magnifying glass and the piece of paper. If a leaf blows quickly past it, that magnifying glass is still focused. That piece of paper is still going to burn. Okay? So you have to recognize that voice you're hearing as just simply a leaf that is flying between the magnifying glass and the paper and is flying past and is just continuing to go. It's not going to just stop there with the magnifying glass. Your mind is focused in on what it is that you desire. So you have to just simply look at it that way. That voice is there, but it's just going to keep going. Okay? This is the importance of meditation. Meditation is about observing your thoughts and recognizing you are not those thoughts. You are not those negative thoughts. They are just simply part of the process. They're part of the program. They're part of the journey of you understanding, okay, there is a dark aspect of yourself, which is needed in this physical world, right? We need the ego, but it is not who you are. And as soon as you recognize that, then you can evolve past it. Then you can even use it to your benefit. So you have to understand that the magnifying glass is your mind focused in on what you desire. Things may come in the way, particularly your mind, particularly your ego mind. That's okay. As long as you continue to stay focused, you will continue to keep doing what you're doing, keep materializing what you're materializing. And even if even if the leaf stays between the magnifying glass and the paper, guess what's going to happen? If you are continuing to stay focused, the power of that magnification of that energy is going to eventually burn through that leaf and continue to burn the paper, right? The paper represents your desire. So all you have to do is keep going. Acknowledge those voices, acknowledge those moments of, resistance, discomfort. If you want, work on those things. Work on those things, acknowledge those things, heal those things. It'll make the process a lot quicker. But if you are focused, you can still get it done without directly dealing with those individual, moments of resistance or limiting beliefs, things of that nature. I say focus on the limiting beliefs, heal from it, get past it, so that way it doesn't show its head up the next time or the next time. Okay. So the important thing is stay focused. If you continue to stay focused and you never quit, then success is just simply the only option. It's the only possibility. But you only fail. True failure is only when you quit. It isn't when you make mistakes. It isn't when you mess up, right? It isn't when things don't go according to plan. It's only when you stop. Okay. So stay focused. Now, when it comes to maintaining the positive mindset, when it comes to cultivating your subconscious mind for being really focused in on your desire, you have to be mindful consistently. You have to be, practice regular mindfulness techniques, observe your thoughts constantly. Meditation is good for that. So continue practicing meditation, continue practicing mindfulness, right? The difference between mindfulness and meditation, to me, meditation is taking intentional time out, sit quietly in a nice still place, sit there, be still, breathe normally, close your eyes, and just simply observe your thoughts without judgment of those thoughts, without any conclusion of those thoughts, without any kind of feeling about those thoughts. Observe those thoughts, observe your feelings, observe your body. Just watch them. That is the objective of meditation. Simply observing, because as you are observing, you are simply recognizing the separation between you, yourself, who you are, which is the observer, and recognizing the thing that you are observing is not who you are. So if you are recognizing, okay, I am thinking this, I am thinking that, I am feeling this, my body feels that. You recognize that you are not that. You are simply feeling that. You are simply experiencing that. Okay. When you really make the connection, you totally see how much power you have. You totally identify who you truly are versus your emotions and your thoughts and your beliefs and your, values and all the other things. All right. Now with mindfulness, it's pretty much the same, but you're out in the world, right? You're exchanging with people, you're talking, you're walking, what have you, and you're doing the same thing, but you are now asking yourself, are the thoughts that I'm having, are the emotions that I'm having, are the actions that I'm taking, is it actually in alignment with what I desire? Okay, so now you're adding a little bit of judgment. You're adding a little bit of critical thinking. You're adding some, assessing, right? Analyzing. You're collecting data. And then you're actually deciding, okay, this does not align with what I want. So therefore, I should be doing something different. I will do something different. I am doing something different. Okay. And then that propels you forward into utilizing that skill of observing and witnessing your thoughts and separating you from your thoughts to actually taking action that aligns with your desire. Okay. So now the next thing we want to get into is recognizing setbacks. So again, with the threshold of resistance, hitting that, breaking that, having the experience of not feeling comfortable, right? Getting out of your comfort zone, reaching that threshold of like, okay, this feels uncomfortable. I have my ego saying to quit. Don't do this. Don't do that. I'm bad at it. those are setbacks, but really it's just opportunities, right? Most times though with setbacks, they're more like tangible, so to speak, right? You are wanting to get this amazing job and you got the job, but now your car is broke down and you can't afford to fix it. So now you can't get to the job. That's more of a tangible setback that many people experience. And so they make this kind of excuse that, oh, my life sucks. Okay. Look at it as an opportunity somehow, some way. You have to continue to program your mind to do what it's supposed to do, which is create solutions, create opportunities. You may go on a date. You may like the person you went on a date with. Then all of a sudden, you don't hear from them. They ghosted you. Look at it as an opportunity. Okay. See it not as a setback, even though, yes, acknowledge the emotions of disappointment and, wanting to go to that job or wanting to go with that person on more dates and get to know that person. But recognize that there's a reason. And I'm not talking about just some very airy-terry reason, right? That doesn't make sense, but a reason of recognizing that your higher self has something even better for you. There's a divine intelligence within you that you can't access, but is still working for you, that is saying, you're really not going to like that job. You may think it's your ideal job, but there is something better. Okay. You're really not going to like that person. That person really isn't healthy. That person really doesn't align with you. And so we're going to either make sure that person doesn't contact you again or what have you. Okay. But the point is, you have to trust in yourself and the universe that you're creating. And remember, life isn't happening to you, it's happening from you. So though you may not understand it in a conscious level, you have to continue to understand and trust what's happening here, because there's always something that is like stewing, working for you. So you may be attached to something like a dream job. You may be attached to dating this one particular person, but that is symptoms of the ego. When you trust and have faith in your higher consciousness, then you understand and you can tap into something that is way more infinite, like way better, So understand that setbacks are really opportunities. You just have to simply, even though you can't understand it or see it, you still must trust. Okay. You must trust in yourself. And lastly, one of the most important things that people don't understand and own is the importance of cultivating your environment. Cultivating your environment is key toward building and reprogramming your subconscious mind. Why? The subconscious mind is essentially an open field. Okay. It is land. And your idea needs to be cultivated. Your desire needs to be cultivated. Okay. So think of yourself as a farmer. Think of yourself as wanting to create a particular kind of farm where you want to grow a particular kind of fruit. All right. In order to grow apples, you have to get what? Apple seeds. Okay. In order to grow apples, you cannot get orange seeds and plant them thinking that apple's going to grow. So again, it gets into thinking about your alignment. Are the thoughts, are the emotions, are all those things in alignment with the desire? Okay. So now you have the apple seeds. You're going to start planting these apple seeds. Is the soil good? Right? The soil is the environment where you live, where you sleep, where you spend your days and when you spend your nights. Is that an environment that cultivates the growth of the seed, which is your desire? Right? Think about it that way. Do you feel at peace? Do you feel like you can really think about putting the work toward your desire when you're at home, when you're at work? Right? Maybe not work, but when you're at home. All right. You have to think about all of that. Does that environment help you? Okay. Yeah. It may not be easy to just simply move and get out of there, but you want to cultivate that. You still can cultivate that, put up the affirmations, put up the vision board, put up the things that are going to remind you and keep you focused and grounded, right? Put all the books around you. Okay. Listen to all the audiobooks, YouTube videos, all that stuff. Make sure your environment is a space where it will help you when you are doing your nighttime visualizations before you go to bed, when you are waking up in the morning and doing your morning visualizations. Okay? All those things. Your surroundings, the people around you. Okay, those that can be looked at as the water. When you're planting those seeds, okay, you have the land. It's nice and it's fertile and all the good things about the land are great. Now you have to water those plants. Those are elemental things, right? People. So are the people around you supporting you? Do they align with what it is that you wish to create? All right. You can't put gasoline on the land as you planted the seeds, right? You can't water it with gasoline, right? You can't water it with bleach. You have to water it with water, right? So recognizing that, you have to recognize when people are toxic or when people are not aligned with what it is that you want. If they have a negative mentality, they think what you're doing is not quote unquote realistic, all those things. You have to recognize that, okay, this relationship is not in alignment with what I want. And you have to decide what you're going to do with that relationship, right? You can put it in the back burner. You can cut them off. You can just keep them at a distance. You can just not share with them and have them in your environment that you're cultivating. So that way you can actually grow your seeds. You can grow your apple trees. Okay. Then you want to make sure your environment is getting proper sun. So you have to think about all those elements represent all of the elements and the things that are in your surroundings, right? Where you work, where you live, who you talk to. All those things are very important. So you have to cultivate an environment that supports your desire, that supports your unfoldment. When you do that, then you are on the journey where you are guaranteed to materialize the things that you desire and guaranteed to expedite the process of you coming into the self-realization as to who you are. But remember, stay focused. When you stay focused, there will always be things that are going to kind of distract you or kind of show up and get in your way. But with focus, even the things that get in your way, you go right through them. All right? Stay focused, continue to be unstoppable, continue to materialize the things that you desire, continue to be who you're meant to be. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook and so much more. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.